it it seems like the only real objective that they had was to kill as many women and children as they can to turn the population against Hamas. But even there, they failed, which is
Right.
what they did similarly try to do in Lebanon as well, and it's kind of failed there as well. It's
Right.
unlikely. It's not going that um, um, strategy is not going to work anywhere where you bomb the hell out of a land and hope that people will turn against their own leadership. If
Right.
anything, at that stage, they're going to reunite. It also reminds me, talking about killing of the leadership, it also reminds me, because my background, my family is from Pakistan,
Hmm.
and we, on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, we've had troubles for years, and the
Right.
military's been trying to fight these kind of what we call TTP or Tehrik
Yep.
Taliban Pakistan. Um, and basically, that's what happens every time you knock off one of their leaders, instantly another leader will come along.
Right.
But
Right.
now that new leader is going to be even more resilient than the first one because they have more to prove
Right.
and make a space for themselves. So it's going to be even more difficult to negotiate with them, and they're going to fight even harder.
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah, I mean, I can. I mean, my time in Afghanistan when I was there when the Pakistani Taliban, marched out of the Swat Valley.
yes, I remember
Right.
that.
The story I tell about that is the fact that to Americans, what I'll say about the growth and support for the Pakistani Taliban. I say, like, look, imagining your town, you've got some people who talk about that you talk about the dangers from the outside. You talk about others are going to come in here and do these things to us. Maybe they throw some religious aspects into it, but always the danger of the other. And then you ignore them. You think they're crazy or they're conspiracy theorists. And then the drones start appearing overhead, right? And in Pakistan's case, the Pakistani army comes into right what was called Northwest Frontier Province at the time, right? Right. I mean, comes in, and then the checkpoints start getting put up, and then you hear about next town over, a family was killed by a drone, and then your mother and sister come home and tell you how they were humiliated at a checkpoint, so on and so on and so forth. And now all of a sudden, those guys, in your town who were talking about this kind of stuff, they're making a lot more sense now, right? And they were right all along. Right. I mean, it's just like that type of efforts by these governments are often the things that cause support for these militant movements. And we have all kinds of data on that. I mean, that
Yes.
was the case in Iraq, it was the case in Afghanistan. In around 2016, 2017, the UN did a study of militant jihadist, whatever you want to call them, movements across of Africa. And they found that 3/4 of the members of those groups had joined those groups because they had relatives or friends killed by government or foreign forces. Right. When I resigned from my position in Afghanistan in 2009 over the escalation of the Afghan war, we had an intelligence report that got leaked out to the media in the U.S. And it was very clear. We understood the Taliban, the Afghan Taliban, that 9 out of 10 of them were not fighting us because of religious motivation or ideological zeal, but 9 out of 10 of them were fighting the Americans and the occupying force and the Afghan government because they were being occupied, because of the presence of foreign soldiers, or because of what you essentially could say the continuation of the Afghan war that went back to the 70s that had what was essentially a Cold War legacy. I mean, so it was because of outside powers or many times corrupt governments that are backed by outside powers that push people into these organizations,
Yes.
and we saw that, in Iraq as well, the same story. I mean, you could talk about this, almost anywhere. But, in these circumstances, it's the most extreme who are available to take on those who are looking for help, for assistance, as well as a way to fight back. I mean, so it's the same tale gets told over and over again, and it's ignored
Yes.
over and over again.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it's because of entitlement, a lot of it's because of arrogance. But it's always been that way, and I imagine it will continue to be that way. That the same dynamics will happen, particularly when you're dealing with an imperial power like the United States, that continually utilizes divide and conquer strategies. So, to continue, I mean, that's as old as the Romans and the Greeks, longer, I assume, right? I mean, so, but as long as you're going to have that divide and conquer, well, those who are on the wrong side of the imperial power, who are they going to turn to? Right. And so, you're essentially putting them into a position where they're going to accept help from wherever they can. And oftentimes that help ends up being groups that otherwise they would not align themselves with.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Let me just take a moment to introduce our sponsors for today. This episode is kindly being sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. WLC is a complete A to Z Amazon account management service. So if you're looking to start an e-commerce business, or you already have a business that you want to take to the next level, then get in touch and WLC will be able to help. Just for transparency purposes, let me also mention that WLC is a company that I personally created and am a director of. So when you get in touch with WLC, you will be speaking with directly myself or my team, and we very much look forward to speaking with you to see how we can serve your needs. Thank you, and with that said, let's get back to the episode.